Hello, everybody, and welcome to week 6 of the Premodern Showdown series 4. I'm Michael Hoyp. I'm joined in the booth today by none other than Rich Shay. Shay, say hi, Rich.
Hey everyone, good to see you, or if not see you, then at least see you type.
Yes.
I'm going to be monitoring the chat, so feel free to hang out with us and feel free to get your words in if you like.
Yeah, it's always fun to interact with all the Premodern fans, chatting about the plays or just the players or just the shenanigans that we sometimes have. But our first match, we have Cristian Wisner up against Brian Kowal, also known as BK. So that's our first match. Just a preview of the other matches. Aaron will be up against Rich after he's done commentating. And we'll have Mike Flores in the booth. And then for our third round, Brian Manolakis will be up against Mike. And then our last round, we have Ryan Grodzinski up against Tom Metelsky. So lots of pre-modern action. We are in our week 6, and there are 7 weeks of the regular Swiss play, and then we'll be cutting to a top 4. So things are getting the end is near, but there's still a lot to be determined in terms of the 4 top players. So a lot of action that you don't want to miss, and a lot of things can be determined in these last couple weeks.
I think it's mostly not yet deterministic who's going to make it into the top 4.
Yes, there's. I think Aaron might be a lock. I guess I can bring up the standings real
I
quick.
think Flores might also be a lock, but the other way.
Yeah, in the way that you aren't as excited about.
Yeah.
So yes, I have a graphic up for after week 5. These are our current standings. So yes, Aaron Dix 5-0. I believe he will make the playoffs regardless. And then a lot is undetermined for a lot of the other players. So BK and Rich are tied at second. They both are 3-2. And then Brian Manolakis and Ryan Grodzinski, they have missed a match, so they're currently 2-2. So they're tied for fourth with an asterisk that one of them will at least get a win. And then Cristian and Tom are 2-3, and then Flores by himself at 0-5.
So Michael and Aaron are locked, but we still have 6 people, any of whom could be in these 3 positions, right? So
Yes.
that's a lot of possible outcomes.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's jump over and talk about the match that we have on hand.
Right on.
Okay, we have Cristian. He has brought the blue-red Stifle Knot list. Red-green Goblins and the Rock are his 3 pre-modern decks he's brought to this tournament. He will not be playing Red-green Goblins tonight because BK has banned that. BK has brought this girl, the Rock, and then Counter Parfait. His Counter Parfait has been banned. So Cristian is left with the choices of the blue-red Stifle Knot or the Rock. And BK has this girl or his Rock. So we could see a Rock mirror match. Do you want to make a prediction, or are you able to
Let's reason it out. So if Cristian plays his blue-red Dreadnought deck, I know that's a specialty of his, but he'd end up playing against either a deck with Swords to Plowshares or a deck with a whole bunch of disruption and removal. So it feels like if he does choose to take the blue-red Dreadnought deck, he'd have a tough time. Whereas I feel like if he took the Rock, he'll have a mid-rangey 50-50-ish match against either of BK's decks, which are both also mid-range-ish decks. So I feel like we're going to have Cristian picking the Rock because the alternative isn't as good. And I think there's a non-zero chance that BK is going to play this girl because it has Swords to Plowshare. So it should be fine against the Rock and pretty good against the Dreadnought deck, but we'll see.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty logical progression of thought, and I know BK has liked his version of this girl. I think he likes it against the Rock if that's what he thinks. Like Cristian, kind of his is it pundit square? I don't what's the right, or prisoner's dilemma? I don't know what the right term would be. Kind of how you figure out the matches, but if he thinks that Cristian is playing the Rock, then maybe he thinks that he has a matchup advantage then.
Now, every time I hear that deck name, I think of the David Bowie song "Maid of Bond Street," which starts with the lyric "This girl." Um, and apparently that's not what he's intending, but that's where my mind immediately goes.
No, a brief history. I think it was when it was a standard deck when the Time Spiral version of Lightning Angel was in standard. I think Mike Flores had written an article after regionals, or I believe it was regionals was the term, or maybe it was states, and that was the title of the article. And I think that's was influenced by BK's list, or they had collaborated in some way, and I think that was kind of the nostalgia for him.
Okay, yeah, I'm clearly a fan of nostalgia,
Yeah.
so that's you know
All right,
that
the
sounds
decks
good.
that we have. So
Yeah.
first, Christian, he is playing the Rock. So talk about this list. It's there are a few differences in terms of what the standard Rock list is. So for a while, the decision cut point was kind of whether you play Birds of Paradise or whether you play a Wall of Roots. Christian has the four Birds of Paradise, but the biggest difference is like some people would choose to play Living Wish and have that toolbox sideboard. Christian
Hmm.
has two Living Wish, so he's not like a full committal to that sideboard option. Just has a little bit of flexibility because he has a few targets in the sideboard. I mean, like a Bone Shredder, a Withered Wretch, a
Bone
Spike
Shredder.
Feeder,
Braids
Braids, yes, Genesis,
card.
and
That's
Spirit Monger. But there's just a couple of
right.
copies of the Living Wish, and then some other like I don't know if random's the right word, but like there's a Graveborn Muse in the main. There's one Deranged Hermit. There's a Diabolic Intent. So I guess the singletons that are in his list might have a little extra value with that Diabolic Tutor or Diabolic Intent floating around there to double up with that pseudo demonic tutor. But
Yeah, I like it. This has a lot of flexibility. I mean, he can reach into his sideboard, he can reach into the deck.
mhm.
He's really giving himself the ability to kind of play a toolbox, but at the same time, Diabolic Tutor comes at the cost of some card advantage. Living Wish is going to chomp up your sideboard. So it's not free. He's paying for flexibility with card advantage and options.
Yeah. And so I always like this deck. I like how the games play out, and it's always interesting to see the few tweaks and how they play out in the different metagames. So we'll see how Christian lines up against BK, which he will be playing this girl. So
All right.
well predicted, Rich. So the core of this deck kind of just goes down with it's kind of just a good stuff deck if you really at its core.
Yeah, that's what mid-range usually is,
Yeah.
right? Hey, I like these cards. I'm going to throw them all in a deck and I'm going to draw them and play them and hope that good things happen and
Mhm.
that nothing bad happens to me. That's how mid-range decks work.
Yeah, so the big difference that that BK's innovated with this list is with Silver Knights, and which maybe not at the best in this matchup, but and he is playing a lot more Exalted Angels than maybe some list. And then Future Sight is another card that he will cast that really gives the deck, I think, a different dynamic. I think that's part of the reason why he feels like he likes it in this
Yeah.
matchup. If he's able to resolve a Future Sight, it's pretty difficult for the Rock to remove. There might be some naturalized floating around, or a deed. Like a deed for 5 is not a given necessarily. So that big expensive, I don't know if clunky is the right word, future sight might come down and run away with the game. So
Yeah, I think that one of the things about The Rock in this matchup is that Deed is an incredibly good card. It solves a lot of problems, and it looks like BK is going to have to try to leap over what Christian's doing, and the Angels give him a way to do that, and the Future Sight gives him a way to do that. Now they're all answered by a Deed. So I think that if neither player manages to really get a lead early, it's going to be can BK's expensive but powerful threat line up against the mass removing sweeper that is Pernicious Steed.
yep. Yeah, Deed usually becomes a very important piece in the Rock's game plan, and this matchup is no exception. So let's jump down to the match. If you want to let our players know that we can get started.
All right.
So we have Christian on the left with the Rock, and then BK on the right with the this girl deck. So BK has won the die roll. They both players have kept 7 cards, and they'll be kicking things off, and we'll see how things go.
So we've
If you
got
had to pick, would you want one deck over the other? I know you've kind of talked about that you respect the Rock as a deck, you just don't really gravitate toward it.
right. It's I don't judge people that like it, but it's really not my thing. I'm not saying it's bad. I just doesn't I don't like it. Um, So I would rather be playing this girl than the rock. But I think the rock probably has the edge here.
Okay. So the first turn, City of Brass played a Mother of Runes, and then Christian's first play was Duress, which took a Fire Ice and revealed a hand of another Mother of Runes, and Meddling Mage and Lightning Angel. So the once the Mother of Runes is like turned on, then like the spot removal out of the rock is obviously a lot less effective. But
Right.
we did talk about like the game plan of Pernicious Deed really coming into play, and if that card's, it just puts a little bit more weight on that, like because those will be able to sweep up any Mother of Runes that are in play, whether they're active or not. The protection doesn't matter.
Huge. Now the um, BK going first here is going to be big because it means that he's going to be able to get down a protected Pakula before Christian can summon up the bomb.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so if BK goes Meddling Mage on Pernicious Deed, he's able to protect it from spot removal spells, and we do see that he has like the Lightning Angel, which the games that like when I've played this for usually from the Rock's perspective, if they're able to keep a Lightning Angel in play, then the games are a lot more difficult. If you're able to remove the Lightning Angel, then you have a lot more time. The ground creatures are small, or they're like a Wall of Blossoms does a good job of slowing things down, but Lightning Angel is a quick clock and pretty problematic for the Rock.
It is. Now, Christian has answers. He could untap and therapy it. Um, No, Homer, we just use current modern Magic rules. The damage on the stack really wouldn't make sense because the damage on the stack didn't get implemented until 6th edition, whereas pre-modern is starting in 4th edition. So a lot of these cards weren't even designed for use with damage going on the stack. So it would actually be less authentic to play with damage on the stack.
Yeah, I think part of the vision of the creator was just to use modern rules so it was more accessible to newer players, so it wouldn't just be like a nostalgia driven format. Though that is the draw for a lot of the players, and also it gives it the ability to be played like on Magic Online. All right, so a face down creature, which is an exalted angel in disguise, and then Christian untaps and plays Diabolic Intent, sacrificing his wall. So this will allow him to get whatever card he wants from his deck.
What do you want here?
I am not sure. Uh, the Meddling Mage has a Pernicious Deed under it, so I think that is
Yeah,
BK
that seems
BK
clear.
notifying what he's named. Okay. Yeah, the problem is if you're going for a spot removal card like Smother, there's the Mother Runes that are in play. Um, so
Right.
it could be like a Living Wish that you're going to get like a Plague Spitter, and then
That's so roundabout. I mean, I can't think of a better answer, but boy, is that a very circuitous way to do
yeah,
this.
because the Plague Spitters would kind of like make the Mother Runes protect themselves to stay around, and then if
Yeah,
and then there
but
would be a damage on the Meddling Mage, and if you have like a Cabal Therapy, you could sacrifice it and then kill it.
but
So
then you still have the problem of this angel arriving, and maybe you'll eventually assemble your contraption and very slowly kill Meddling Mage over the course of 6 turns, but it doesn't deal with this 4/5 flying lifelink monstrosity.
yeah, I guess the life totals are rapidly changing thanks to the
I mean,
flipped up Angel.
she swings at 8 a turn, right?
Hmm.
But again, if Christian had gone first, he might have been able to play Pernicious Steed prior to Meddling Mage arriving. So this match might well come down to that die roll.
Yeah, we see
Wow.
a Yavimaya Elder out of Christian. So
How many hurricanes is Christian playing?
I'm not 100%, but I think the number is 0.
0. That's not a good number for him right now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that as the Lightning Angel joins the fray, an attack for 7 in the air with the two Mother of Runes as the protection is going to be problematic.
Definitely.
Oh, okay. I guess the Meddling Mage got in there too, and the Yavimaya Elder got in the way, but Pro Green will make it so that the Elder just dies.
That's a kind of bold attack, but it means that Cristian could use 2 removal spells to kill Meddling Mage, and if he does that, I think then the game is just over anyway. I'm not really sure how he'd get himself out of this, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, like even if there wasn't a meddling mage on Pernicious Seed, like you wouldn't be able to kill the angels. So,
Right.
all right. So it looks like Cristian has packed it up. The angels have flown over for the victory, and BK is up a game in this match. I'm going to jump over to the sideboards, and we can talk about maybe the strategies and
Alright,
think how
yeah,
this
let's take
this
a look.
changes.
I like how chat's just using all different names for this deck. I call it Mid-Range Angels, but
It is a deck that has a lot of names. There has been some people are more passionate about other names. I don't I won't get into too deep into it, but yeah, it changes every week it seems like. So
I mean, yeah. So, alright, it looks like Cristian has access to 3 Plagues, which are an answer to Mum. He could play, I think, Meddling Mage and Silver Knight and Mother of Runes are all human, all 2 human. So he could bring those in. Um, and depending on whether or not he wants to leave in the Wish, obviously, Bone Shredder would be a phenomenally good card in this matchup. The shaky mana base of the mid-range Angels deck is not going to do well under Dust Bowl, and Plague Spitter's something to think about, although it hits his own bird, so maybe that is more of a Wish target.
yeah, it's kind of interesting with the dynamic of having just two copies of the Wish. And while you talk about like Dust Bowl might be something that you situationally might want to get, or like Plague Spitter or Bone Shredder, but like
Mhm.
obviously you're likely to only play one Wish if anything. And so it's like, do you
Right.
bring in like two of those copies and just leave one in the board? Like, do you just bring in a Plague Spitter and leave out the Bone Shredder? I don't know what the best way to hedge the
I
maximum value in terms of.
I think the fact that he has intent means he can just cut the wishes and bring in the best cards.
Okay. Yeah, that's
Um,
fair. But I mean, I don't feel like Christian is gaining a ton. I mean, I think his deck gets a little bit better, but I wouldn't say that it's significantly stronger than it was in game one.
no, I agree. I mean, Duress is less exciting, and Plague would have been really good for him there, but it still wouldn't have dealt with the Angels, and I don't really see any good way to deal with Angels outside of that Miser's Bone Shredder.
Mm-hmm. We'll look at BK's list and let's see if anything interesting is in his sideboard. There's two copies of Hydroblast. That's not any good. Null
Absolutely.
Rod, Pyroblast, and Blue Elemental. So the blasts aren't coming in. There is an extra seal cleansing, which I think he has two copies main. If I'm looking at
Yeah,
the
I
graphic.
don't like any of these sideboard cards, actually.
Yeah, and then like
I mean,
worship doesn't seem worth it really. Yeah,
no, I mean, I don't think any of those do anything, and I think he probably already has a couple seals to hedge against Deed. I'm not really seeing anything else I want.
I mean, if you're anticipating Engineered Plague, I think I might take out a card like Silver Knight, which is just it
Okay,
just doesn't
yeah,
line
that
up very
that
well.
that
And
that's
like,
true. Yeah, you're right. You're right. Getting that third seal in there would be good compared to a Silver Knight. Okay, yeah,
and
that's good.
I mean, I can see some like wild things going. Like maybe your plan is just to like apply pressure, and then like if Pyrostatic Pillar would be better than the other Silver Knights. I feel like that could backfire. That like because a lot of your
It
spells are really cheap. That
Right, that could go badly because The Rock has a bunch of expensive, clunky cards that, say what you want about Spiritmonger, he doesn't very much care about Pyrostatic Pillar.
yeah. Yeah, that's. I don't think that's. It's definitely not the matchup that card is like meant for. But it's
No.
always something to like look at your sideboard and be like, okay, if you have cards that really underperform in the main deck, which I feel like Silver Knight is a pretty big underperformer,
Yeah,
then maybe
okay.
there's if it's a like a high variance card, then maybe sometimes it has some merit. But
Certainly, I think Silver Knight for Seal.
okay, yeah. So I don't think a lot of changes for BK, but I don't think he's too upset because I think things actually are pretty well lined up.
I agree. I was thinking this would go better for The Rock, but if If BK can get a protected meddling mage naming Deed, then that's everything, because I think the matchup is so heavily dependent on Deed.
Mm-hmm. All right, so players are shuffling up for their second game. Cristian will be able to be on the play, and so we did talk about how that could have really changed game one. So
Yeah.
maybe just that extra half a turn could really change things for this match.
Yeah, it's just a matter of, can he get Deed down before it gets halted?
Mm-hmm.
The BK's build doesn't play with counter magic, which a lot of these do.
Yeah, he's been a little more proactive in terms of just playing more threats and not really committing those extra slots to permission.
It certainly worked game one. We just engaged in a pretty rapid beatdown plan.
Yeah, and that's like one of the things that it feels really good whenever you're in a matchup where like just racing is a viable way of winning the game. Like there are certain decks that just either will answer your threats or like will combo out a little bit quicker, and cards like Exalted Angel or Lightning Angel are a little more embarrassing. But yeah, definitely when the opponent is trying to play fair, when you just kind of curving out and flipping up an Exalted Angel and then adding a Lightning Angel will really put a clock on them.
Yeah.
All right, Treetop Village is the lead off for Cristian and his rock deck.
Solid start with the Mother of Runes.
Yep. So similar to last game, the Mother Rune comes down and off the City of the Brass. Nonetheless, we do have a Smother before that Mother of Runes comes online. So
Mother is such a good card. Even that is a tempo positive play for BK.
mhm.
He spent 1 mana, and then Cristian has to spend 2 to counteract it.
So BK has a tapped Coastal Tower for his second turn. Then Cristian has a tapped Treetop Village for his third turn. And then BK on his
Ooh,
third turn with a second
maybe
City of
anything.
Brass, which is a little bit painful to
It
take
is.
two damage to cast your morph. Though I mean, like if you're gonna take a damage for a spell, Exalted Angel is a nice one
Yeah.
to invest
Yeah.
in.
All right. So there it is. Vendetta.
Yep.
All right. So now let's see what Cristian has. This is his chance to put a threat on the table.
Yeah, and this is kind of the ideal plan for the rock, is you kind of answer some threats and then you start playing like a
Yeah.
Ravenous Baloth or something, and then you have the threat in play.
Wouldn't a Dust Bowl be great here?
Yeah, I mean, I want to put the threat down first and then have the follow up with the Dust Bowl, but yes, get rid of that Coastal Tower and well,
Guarantees the Lightning Angel won't
yeah,
arrive next turn.
yeah.
All right. It's another morph and another Coastal Tower. BK is consistent.
I'd like to thank Michael Papa Bush for their resubscription, 3 months. Thank you for the support. We appreciate having you here. All right, the Ravenous Baloth is beaten down against BK. There is another morph in play. So Exalted Angel is looming. It doesn't look like there's an answer right away for Cristian, and that could be very problematic because once it gets flips up, it's a lot
Yeah.
harder to deal with. I mean, like Deed for just 0 is probably the cleanest answer.
Her mana cost just spikes from 0 to 6.
He does add another Ravenous Baloth, which
Yeah, but it's still not really making progress, right? Because Angel is basically 2 Baloth equivalents. I mean, they both swap 8 points a turn. And if BK has any follow-up whatsoever, or he can sit and block.
well, I mean, if BK doesn't have anything, then and the treetop villages are able to get in, then I think Cristian would be making progress. I mean, they both be going down by 4 if that were just the parity. But the
He
treetop
can
villages
block. He doesn't have
might
to
break that.
attack.
Sure. Okay. If you're just thinking things sit, yeah, then
I mean, this puts BK in the driver's seat. He can decide whether he's the beatdown, he's the control, he can wait. Um, I feel like BK is in a commanding position here.
Yeah, and even if like BK has the availability to morph, and even though if Christian were able to play like a pernicious deed, because morph doesn't use the stack, he wouldn't be able to like ever. You can't respond to like a exalted angel being flipped up and deed for 0.
Yeah,
So
it's a funny thing, isn't it? There are very few special game rules
mhm.
that exist, but one of them is morph. It doesn't use the stack. You just say, "Hey, I'm morphing," and by the time your opponent has priority, your card has already flipped over.
Yeah, I think I don't know if the game design was just because the ability would be pretty bad against spot removal otherwise, if that was just like the main motivation, or if it was just that's the reason I think it was more of just like a development design so that it plays better.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense. I mean, it was originally that way too. It's not like when they changed how a mechanic works like they did with their disastrous companion mechanic, which was just malcrafted in all sorts of ways.
All right, so we do see a living wish out of Christian, so that will give him access to some of the toolbox cards. I think,
Could be
I mean,
Bone
like
Shredder.
Bone Shredder is probably the most appealing one, if that one. Yep, and that's is
Yeah,
what we see.
Bone
So,
Shredder's ready. All right. Looks like
and
a foil Bone Shredder.
and if that one's resolving, which it should be,
I don't, I don't think
okay.
BK has any way to stop it.
Oh, he's bolting. So okay. So
Oh,
what's
look at
happening is
that.
when Bone Shredder's on the stack, BK is going to bolt his own creature. So that means that the Bone Shredder has to target a non-black, non-artifact creature, and so Christian should have to target one of his Ravenous Baloths, and then he should be able to sacrifice it for 4 life.
Yep,
I believe this.
that'll work. So BK just lightning bolted a Ravenous Baloth. Not
Yeah.
bad.
Yeah. I'm just. It looks like Christian didn't gain life, so maybe he passed up on the opportunity of targeting it and then sacking it. Uh, so
Maybe he didn't know that you could do that.
yeah, maybe a missed opportunity, but he is still attacking for 4 with a Ravenous Baloth that stays in play, and BK's down to okay. So he has him at 5.
Now, is Christian playing with Recurring Nightmare? Because that's a way that he could start dancing this Bone Shredder.
Yeah, I think he does have 1 copy. I believe
Okay.
is the count that he has for Recurring Nightmare. But yeah, that is definitely if you're able to draw that, it makes the green black deck turn very blue in terms of the sense of like the card advantage options
And by
just
blue,
come
you mean
flowing.
good, right? And able
Yes,
to.
yes.
So is that a LobsterCon commemorative planes from BK?
Yep. So since BK went to LobsterCon earlier this year and he top aided with this deck, might be a little bit different, but the general idea, I think it's gone right into his list, and so he can be
Yeah,
reminded. So
yeah, all for it. I'm playing with some of my LobsterCon cards as well.
all right.
All right, so Christian was going to have to pay 3 on his Bone Shredder to keep it around anyway, and he decided that he could just gain 3 life and not have to pay 3.
Oh, yeah, because here
Lightning goes.
if the kind of it's kind of like a forced block with the Ravenous Baloth, and then just firing up your treetop villages should provide enough, unless there's a removal spell out of BK, and even then he'd take a
Yeah,
damage and then still take 3 from a land. So
very nice. So, yeah, that time I think Christian didn't have Deed, but he did have those 2 removal spells, and there you see the flexibility of Living Wish, which I figured he was gonna be cutting, but I guess not. He was
yeah,
able to access Bone Shredder, and maybe having 2 copies of Bone Shredder is still good enough to keep those in the deck.
it was kind of like all the elements I think of what Christian did. Like he had early removal spells, which were really
Mhm.
important. Like if those
Yeah,
mother runes or that angel flips up, and then had the a bone shredder right away. He had the pressure with the Ravenous Baloth, and then he also had the treetop villages that were threats that he didn't have to commit mana earlier in the game, and they were just able to attack on that final turn. So kind of just everything lining up really well for the rock there.
yeah,
All
we are
right,
seeing going first being a huge factor in this.
for sure. All right, so BK and this girl on the play. We'll see if it will be a repeat of our first game or if Christian's able to break serve and win when he's on the draw.
Right on.
Yeah.
Yeah. We haven't actually seen Deed showing up, have we? And
No.
I've been thinking that's gonna be the determinative card, but not yet.
Yeah. It was just the natural removal spells from the rock in the second game, and obviously the first game with the meddling mage on Pernicious Deed, it wasn't able to come into play. So we have a follow from
Edison
Sardaukutran.
Reflection said, "I'd listen to an audiobook read by Rich." Well,
Is that a compliment you've heard before?
no, but it's a nice one.
Yeah,
Thank you. That's
yeah,
very nice. I guess if my job is doing software development these days, if that doesn't work out, there's always the audiobook market.
yeah. There you go. All right. So players are shuffling up. I want to know, chat, who are we rooting for? And I saw some Christian fans. That's usually I see a lot in chat. A lot of people are very vocal for Christian, so it's always good to see the support for him. Um, is anyone cheering for either BK and or the this girl deck? So
It's rare that I would cheer for The Rock actively. And again, I'm not saying it's bad, it's just not my thing.
yeah, it looks like Christian didn't like his initial hand, and he's going for a mulligan. I agree. I agree with chat who says good guy Rock. I think I like to cheer for the Rock, but I'm a special breed, so
Well, no, see, Sedge Turnet Troll, I have a different take than Flores. I'm not saying The Rock's bad. I'm saying not my thing.
Mhm.
I have nothing against it. I'm not saying you shouldn't play it if that's what you're into. No, no, no. Live and let live, I say. But it's not for me. I think I I want to play a deck that has a plan. I want a deck that says, all right, it's 9 a.m. I'm going to do this thing, and this thing could be whatever it is. But I want a deck that has a definitive, clear, linear plan, not a deck that's just a bunch of good cards cobbled together.
That's fair. All right, so BK starts with the Coastal Tower, and then Christian leads off with Cabal Therapy. It might be something you're naming Meddling Mage here
I
if you're
think
trying
it's
to
Meddling
protect a
Mage.
Pernicious Deed.
I like naming Meddling Mage.
I think
Um,
you're less weary of a card like Mother of Ruins because it didn't come down right away, but sometimes the
you probably
mana.
have the plagues now.
Okay,
All right, so he
looks like
didn't name Meddling Mage? What did he name?
I'm seeing if they had noted, but we'll check with our players to see if they let us know. But Meddling Mage does come down, and BK
Okay.
is reaching to identify what he's naming, I think.
What card is on there? Therapy?
Yes,
That's
Cabal Therapy.
hilarious. Because Christian did not deign to therapy the Meddling Mage, BK did deign to Meddling Mage the therapy.
I mean, when you have two Lightning Angels in hand, I can see why that's a way to protect protect
Yeah,
the.
definitely.
And so the second Meddling Mage that comes down is naming a Pernicious Deed, and there's a Mother of Ruins. So if this Mother of Ruins untaps,
All right, so Christian absolutely needs a plague here, right?
yeah, because if this or he needs double removal spell, which I don't think he would have because I think it would have been played last turn. Wall of
Does
Blossoms
he
is
not have land? I mean, that's ouch. Yeah, so
okay. He does have a treetop village. I mean, at least he has a land. But I mean, here with his Mother of Ruins active and the deed locked out, it's going to be problematic. These uh, angels that are
ooh,
looming in BK's hand are going to come
yeah.
down on the board, and it's just going to
All because he didn't name Meddling Mage.
yeah. That was also the assumption that like if he named Meddling Mage, he also has to have Pernicious Deed. But I mean, like against this board, I think you need Deed anyways. So
I think you name it. I think you just name Meddling Mage. Period.
mhm.
So now I think he's reduced to finding plague. I think that's out, right?
think so, because like because spot removal is the only other way to get rid of the mother runes, I think. And
Right, but it's so slow at this point.
yeah, we have a flipped exalted angel, and
Yeah.
the life totals are rapidly changing. So
We've seen more deeds from BK's side of the table than Christian.
yeah, not what we were expecting. Yeah, the card tucked under the meddling mage is the way we've seen the deed. So cycle corrosion tusker. That's not
Probably not where Christian really wants to be in life right now.
yeah, not an effective use of your mana when you're getting beat down this much.
No. So what are his other options? I'm not even sure what they are.
Uh, if he has, yeah, he's got to get rid of the mother of runes, and then if he got like a living wish and a bone shredder, that could take out the exalted angel, and then maybe block a lightning angel that comes down, give him a little bit of padding. But I mean, he's definitely going to take a chunk. Even if he had engineered plague here, then he'd still be taking 4 in the air. No, it'll be 7 because the other angel will join. Yeah, I don't know
Yeah,
if Christian
I
will be able
think
to get out of this.
that's it.
Yep. So lightning angel comes down
Yeah.
and 7 in the air.
Puts Christian at 5. I don't think he really. Yeah. So, uh, I think that his Pakula related decisions just cost Christian the match.
Mm-hmm.
That's rough.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to hear what card he did name and kind of what the train of thought was. Uh, Maybe he was feeling that he was because I would have expected to have like a removal spell if he wasn't naming meddling mage
Yeah,
or
I think you just name meddling mage.
okay.
Whatever else is going on in your life. Because if you don't have deed, you'll draw it, and the only way BK has to stop it from happening is meddling mage, right?
Mhm.
So,
All right, I'm gonna jump down and we're gonna listen to the players and see if they have anything to talk about for this match.
all right. Should I unmute them on my end as well?
Yeah, that works.
I only bordered one card against you. Put one seal in, but I'm not even sure it's right. Hey guys, how's it going?
Hey,
there.
you're being unmutified.
Just side out the rest and
Yeah.
put the plagues.
Okay.
You should unmute them. I think they're wanting to talk to us. Oh, you took out dress, yeah.
Yeah, I did it already.
Hey guys, that was a really intense match.
Thanks,
I
Rich.
guess.
Just the kind of magic you're familiar with, right?
Needle mirrors, they're what I live for. Yeah.
Yeah, the games were very different when each person was on the play.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
so. That was a big thing. What was the Cabal Therapy naming in Game 3?
Exalted Angel.
Exalted Angel.
Okay, all right. Because we had talked about naming a card like Meddling Mage, and just the way that it turned out, that was very problematic. So
Yeah, I was saying at the start, I thought this matchup would come down to Deed and Meddling Mage. Deed is the biggest card in the rock, and Meddling Mage is the answer in this girl.
Yeah. Angel's like really rough for him to deal with.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
can eventually I can deal with Mage, I guess. But
Mhm.
if he land an early Angel, it's
Well, if
it's
it's
over.
turn 6 Angel is rough, but prior
Mhm.
than that, you can Deed it, right?
Maybe.
Yeah. Yeah. I think Mother. I think this matchup's really bad for Rock in general.
Yeah.
It's because Mother of Runes is also kind of a nightmare for him. Like, because he can't. If he has a deed, it's fine. But like, if he
In the
doesn't,
first game,
like,
you land two moms so early.
Yeah.
I had one smaller in hand, but that wasn't enough to stop them.
So, looking at the lists, I thought that this would have been slightly favorable for Rock, but I clearly
Oh.
made the mistake of thinking that a matchup would be favorable for Rock. So,
Rock
um,
suffer a lot of flying creatures, so I can destroy them with a smaller. Even with Diabolic, he can sack the
yeah,
mother. Just the Vendetta.
yeah, Exalted Angel is a tremendously good card. I mean,
Yeah.
4/5 life gain. It really hard to race. It's huge. You can't lightning bolt it. You can't even psionic blast it if that were somehow legal.
Yeah.
Um,
I didn't have Deed in your hand last turn. For that reason, I went for the therapy on Exalted.
yeah.
Yeah.
well, I mean,
Later I drew the
Mhm.
Deed and the 2
Yeah.
more Kowal therapies.
I do always like to say that nothing beats rock.
that's true. I mean, nothing
Yeah.
beats rock. Nothing's beaten, but it's 50-50 against everything, right?
Yeah.
That's
Exactly.
supposed to be how it works.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Well, nothing
Um,
more to say, I guess. Yeah.
Okay.
What else to say? Like, okay.
Yeah.
Played my creatures and attacked with them. Yeah.
My ass beaten by angels. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I wonder if that game would have played out really differently if I didn't have 2 lightning angels in my hand, because then I probably name Deed with the first mage, and then you had multiple therapies, so you probably would have like ran my hand out.
Yeah, but
Um,
like I said to you, I'm not mad to miss the therapy on Lightning Angel. I ended losing to an Exalted Angel. So
yeah,
the
the lightning angels are
the
pretty
angel,
good.
the Lightning Angel after just I don't know.
Mhm.
Doesn't matter. The Exalted win that game.
Well, so that was all the angel I needed.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
The angels came quick and they came often. Yeah.
Yeah, like we drew it up.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's what the deck's supposed to do, right? Turbo Angel.
We got a new name.
Another.
Turbo
Okay.
angels.
The deck
That's a
doesn't have enough
That's a
names.
great idea.
Yeah.
Turbo
Turbo
angels.
Angels.
I like that.
Put
I
some
like that.
Mox Diamond maybe to speed up.
Yeah.
Some
Right.
City
Right.
of Treasures. And
It used to be that turbo would mean that you had a Grim Monolith in there, but
yeah,
Mhm.
sadly.
Or Howling Mine. For some reason.
like turbo.
You go way
Stasis.
back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Brian, good games.
Yeah, good
Congrats.
games.
Yeah. Good games, players. Yeah, I'm just looking to see if chat has really any questions, and I don't think they really did. But yeah, it was fun to watch. Thank you. So I guess we'll let our players go if there aren't any other
Alright.
questions. If Rich, do you have anything to add?
No.
Okay.
Thanks, guys. This was great. I'll be back in 10 minutes having to face off against the undefeated player. That's going to be fun.
Yeah.
All right.
So yeah, so we are gonna get things
Nice.
set up for our next match, and we will be back with more pre-modern action for our round 2 of the PSS4. So sit tight,
Yeah.
everyone. We'll be right back.
Good night.
Awesome.
Bye-bye.
Bye for now.